According to the latest US Census Bureau data, the average home in America is over 40 years old. And if you live in an older home and you're thinking about putting it on the market, you might be feeling some pressure to make some expensive updates. Well, I sat down with some folks, some homeowners that are getting their house ready to sell, and they live in a home that is over 50 years old. It has the original kitchen, has the original bathroom, it has dated flooring. And they were really concerned about making expensive updates that they couldn't afford. So we sat down, we had a long conversation, and that's what I want to share with you today. So in this video, we're going to dig in to the updates that you should absolutely avoid when you're selling an older home, and then I'll dig into some updates that you definitely should consider that will give you some return on your investment. So let's dig right in. But first, let's talk about the biggest mistakes homeowners make. If you live in an older home that might need some TLC, maybe the kitchen needs an update or the bathroom needs a refresh, it's natural to feel like you want to catch up, that you need to catch up in order to put it on the market. You may be a little embarrassed. Your house is not HGTV ready, or you go on Zillow and say, you see these beautiful pictures and you say, how do I compete with that? And as a result, a lot of homeowners over update, they overspend, and then they don't realize that they can't get all that money back. And the intention is to attract more buyers. You're saying, I have to do all these things or I won't be able to sell the house. In actuality, after the updates, because you've updated it the way you think you should update it, you're actually not appealing to those buyers. The buyers want to update it themselves. They may end up tearing out that kitchen that you spent a lot of money on that you can't get the money back on. The other element is the financial anxiety and the financial stress. You might be in a situation where you think you have to make these updates, but you really can't afford it. And because you can't afford it, you put the brakes on. And if you're in a situation where you really, really need to move, you could be unnecessarily pressing the pause button. And that's not where you want to go. That is not where you want to go. It's unnecessary, and that creates additional stress on top of the financial stress. So, what are the updates that you want to avoid? Well, the first one is going to be major kitchen and bathroom remodels. Now, the homeowners that I met with that I mentioned earlier, this is what we talked about. They were planning to do a kitchen remodel, a bathroom refresh, and I explained to them that that will not, number one, put more money in your pocket, and number two, it won't necessarily help the house sell faster because a lot of times buyers want to be able to do that themselves. Instead, there are some things that are way less expensive to help you maximize give you the best presentation possible, and then price it appropriately. So things to consider would be number one, top of the list, and I talk about this all the time, deep clean. We're not talking going around paper towel, wiping things down. I'm talking elbow grease, magic eraser, Murphy oil soap, all the things. Like, you want to deep clean everything inside of the oven, the whole 9 yards. Now, if you have wood cabinets that are painted, you could give it a fresh coat of paint, which is what I recommended to them. You can replace the hardware, the drawer pulls. Now, when you paint, please practice if you've never done that before. Choose a cabinet door maybe that is not as obvious, and practice. You want to make sure that it actually looks good. Don't put it on too thick. It's worse to have a bad paint job than not paint at all. So make sure you practice. But replacing the hardware is another way to go. If you have tile backsplash, you may want to consider, you can try cleaning it, or you might consider regrouting the backsplash. You could replace the faucets. If you have a faucet, especially if it's leaking, update the faucet. Faucets are not extraordinarily expensive. And depending on how handy you are, you might be able to do that yourself and save you some money, or you need to call a plumber, get them in there. Still, it shouldn't cost you a ton of money. It's an easy, easy fix. And then you can also look at your light fixtures. If you have a light fixture from the 1980s in your house with the fluorescent bulbs, it's got to go, and they're not expensive. I did the one in my house. It's $100, for a light fixture. Again, if you're not comfortable with it, you will have to hire an electrician, but it's not an expensive bill because it's a pretty easy fix. But don't replace the kitchen, don't update the kitchen, don't update the bathrooms. You won't get your money back. Now, the second one that you want to avoid is flooring upgrades. If your flooring is in good condition, your vinyl flooring is not ripped, your hardwood flooring is in decent condition. If you have carpets, they're decent condition, they're okay condition, don't replace them. Do not replace them. You won't get your money back. If the vinyl is ripped, if the carpet has holes in it, it's way past its time, then yes, I do recommend you making those updates, replacing that flooring. What you can do instead, deep clean. I'm a broken record on this. Deep cleaning. Deep cleaning is one of those things that on the day to day you don't necessarily have time for, but it's amazing when you actually make the time for it. And the end result, you might be super surprised. But if you have carpets, I would highly recommend, strongly recommend, don't try to do it yourself. Hire a professional because you want to try to get that pile up as much as possible. And you want to do it right before it goes on the market so that you're not walking around on it, obviously, and pushing that pile back down. If it is hardwood floor, you guessed it, clean it like crazy. You might consider doing a Murphy's oil soap, try to bring it back. You may want to check to see what's under the carpets. So the folks that I met with actually had hardwood under the carpets. Yes, you will have tack strips along the outside edges of every room for that carpet. But if those floors have been covered for a long period of time, you might be shocked at how beautiful those hardwood floors have been preserved. So get those carpets up, get them out of there, get all the nails, all the little tack strips up, get it all cleaned up, and go from there. I'd rather see little holes from tack strips than ratty carpet in a heartbeat. But don't replace it. Don't replace it. You won't get your money back. All right, the third item is replacing the windows. And I get this a lot. I see this a lot. If you have older windows that are single pane windows, they are not insulated windows. Literally, when you go up to them and you can see the mullions. Mullions are those cross members, in the windows, or they actually, the older windows have them on the outside. The newer windows, the insulated windows, you can actually get them inside. But if it's a single pane glass, you likely have a storm window, depending on where you live in the country. And the question I get all the time is, should I replace the windows? And typically, depending on the house, but typically I say no. Why? Because they're expensive. They're super expensive. And because they're expensive, you won't get your money back. So what can you do instead? Well, for starters, make sure they open and close properly. If there are any broken windows, then you do and you should have it replaced. Have it either replaced or have the glass fixed. You also want to look to see if you have any trim rot, any sill rot on the outside of the windows. Have that fixed. Check the locking mechanisms. If the locking hardware is broken, replace the hardware. Make sure that the windows are clean. Make sure the tracks are clean. Do not, as a side note, do not use WD-40 to lubricate the tracks. That is probably the worst thing you can possibly do. Everybody does it, and it is terrible. It actually gums up your tracks. You're better off with a silicone spray. And to be honest, I buy the silicone spray. It's actually meant for garage door tracks. I use it everywhere. I lubricate the hinges on the doors, everything, and it lasts longer, and it doesn't get all gunky. It doesn't attract dirt into the oils and whatnot. It works much better, but don't use the WD-40. But clean up, maintenance, repairs, clean the windows. It's a pain. When the mullions are on the outside, unless they're removable, the windows are built in the 80s, you could take those off. A lot of the ones prior to the 80s you can't take off. You go through every single pane. It's worth the effort. It's worth the effort. Windows, there are companies out there that will do it for you. I know we have up here in my neck of the woods, there's a company that it doesn't cost a ton of money, and it might be worth the expenditure to get that done, especially if your windows are to the point where they're not tilted. So consider all of those items, but don't make the expense. Don't spend the money on replacing them. Now, the next item on the list is going to be replacing your appliances or your heating system, your HVAC system. Now, I have mentioned this in other videos and quite honestly got some pushback from some folks that strongly disagreed, and that's okay. But I'm going to stand firm in my suggestion that you not replace it. However, if it's broken it's a different story. It's an entirely different story. If it is broken, then you might want to consider, depending on the nature of the repair, it may be appropriate to replace it. But why not replace them? Well, number one, you're not going to get your money back. You just won't, especially now. The way things are how much things cost and how much prices have escalated, you won't get your money back on the cost of those appliances. The other thing is that buyers are very finicky. They may want all stainless steel. They may want all black appliances. Maybe they have specific types of appliances in mind that they want to put in. And now to them, the brand new appliances that you just put in the kitchen has no value. Has no value to you whatsoever. Now, the HVAC system, the heating system, same thing. To an extent, you could replace it and have a brand new system. But what if you replace, say, a forced hot air system that doesn't have central air and the buyers want to add central air down the road? That now is money that wasn't well spent. So what can you do instead? Well, definitely you want to have everything serviced. You want to have the heating system, the HVAC system, AC system. If you haven't had it serviced in a while, now's the time. If you have it serviced regularly, make sure that those updates are, you have those updated records for the buyers, because if it is an older system and you have a service record to show the buyer, that'll put their fears to rest. But service them clean. And I'm going to recommend go in the basement. If you have a basement or wherever your heating system, your AC system is, installed, and clean it. Get a vacuum, clean all the spider webs. I am not kidding when I tell you that does make a difference. Walking into a home that is dated, severely dated, but is clean is entirely different. Doesn't feel like it's neglected. It feels like the homeowners have been on top of it and they've done their best. Everything is going to be operational. You can have those receipts to show that everything is operational. And now you're eliminating objections left and right, and you're not spending a ton of money. But don't replace them unless they're broken. And then the fifth update that you really want to avoid is replacing or removing any original architectural detail. So what am I talking about here? Well, those homeowners that I met with had an older home, was built in the 70s, and it had a knee wall in between the living room and the kitchen. And on top of that knee wall, there were spindles. It was very popular back in that day. It was 60s, 70s. There were spindles that went from the top of the knee wall all the way to the ceiling. And they asked me, should I take it down? And I said, absolutely not. And they said, oh, okay. What should we do? Clean it. It was very dusty. But clean it, clean it, clean it. Why, you might ask? Like, why wouldn't you just rip it out, open it up, and make it more modern? Well, how do we know what the buyers are going to want to do? There are a lot of buyers that will buy older homes because they actually like some of the old architectural detail. And especially where I am up in the Northeast, some of that architectural detail is significant. Updating molding, updating trim, door trim, window trim, doorknobs, anything that is from that era that is representative of the age of the house, that might have value to the buyer. That might be something that they want to keep, that they actually like. It's a window into the past. So what can you do instead? Clean it. If it's wood, clean it, polish it. If it's brass, polish it. You want to make sure that it is in decent condition. If it's chipped, you might want to put a little wood filler in there. There's so many cool things I've personally purchased. There are pens of multiple shades of wood color that you can use to fill in scratches and whatnot, and it comes out pretty darn good, just to give it a little bit of something something. But give it a little bit of love. Don't spend the money or the time hiring a contractor to bring it out, because let me tell you something, in that particular circumstance, if they had taken those spindles out and that piece on the ceiling that it was attached to, you drop that down, now you don't know what's above it. And now you're potentially looking at a ceiling repair. It is a can of worms that you do not want to open. Now, very often you will hear that I will say, defer to your agent. Ask your real estate agent, what is current? What should I do? These folks that I met with deferred to me and said, Jen, what should I do? And that's what we're here for. A skilled agent knows what to tell you. A skilled agent is going to give you the advice that is best suited for your situation. But unfortunately, as you probably know, not all agents are that way. And I have heard that story play out time and time again, where an agent will instruct a homeowner to replace the floor, to replace the kitchen, to replace the bathroom, to update the carpets and update the flooring because there's no way it's going to sell unless you do these updates. And the updates get done, they cost way more money than the homeowner wanted to spend, and then they end up not being able to get the price that they were hoping to get to cover the cost of those upgrades. And it's because they were given bad advice. And those agents that I'm referring to are 80% agents. I call them 80% agents because it is my opinion that after being in this business for almost 30 years, 80% of the real estate agents in the real estate industry are not worth half of what they're getting paid, a fraction of what they're getting paid. They're not highly skilled. They are not looking out for necessarily for your best interest. They don't take the time. They're not professional. They just don't know. They don't have the experiential knowledge. Part of it is their fault. Part of it is not. They don't have the training. Regardless, you're paying those agents and the 20% agents, the agents that are the highly skilled agents, the highly professional agents that have the experiential knowledge to tell you that you're going to waste money doing that. Those are the 20% agents, and they cost the same. They're going to charge you the same amount of commission. So, how do you tell? Well, you've got to interview at least 3 agents. You've got to go through the interview process. Now, I've done videos. I will link them here. There'll be a link here you can click on. It'll also be in the description. There, I've done videos on how to interview these agents. However, if you want another agent to consider interviewing, I have a whole network of pre-vetted agents. Over the course of the last 30 years, I've put together a list of agents that are of my caliber, 20% agents. And if I don't have an agent, because I do refer coast to coast, if I don't have an agent in your area, I will go through that interview process. And it's a pretty extensive process. My bar is pretty high because I have no patience for these 80% agents these days. So my bar is very, very high. Go through that process, interview those agents, and refer them out to refer you out to them. So I'll connect those. It doesn't cost you anything. I do get a referral fee. Just full disclosure from that agent. If you decide to use them, there's no obligation. I want you to pick the agent that works for you, the agent that fits your personality, that fits your goals. There's no requirement to use that agent, but if you do, I get a small referral fee from the agent. Doesn't come out of your pocket. But if you're interested, there's a link in the description. You fill it out, and I'll be in touch with you via email, and there'll be instructions on the form when you fill it out. Now, we've talked about updates you should avoid. Now let's talk about updates that you should consider doing. And the top of the list is going to be minor repairs and maintenance. Now, I mentioned this earlier, things like HVAC system, heating system, anything that requires regular maintenance, you should absolutely call that repairman in, call in that maintenance guy, get something in writing, especially if you have an older furnace. It is worthwhile to spend that money to have them come in and just assess it, make sure that the filters are cleaned, everything is up to snuff. If you have anything that needs to be done that is a safety item, what's your focus on safety items? So if you do have a loose outlet, that is a safety concern. If you have open junction boxes, that is a safety concern. Anything electrical, to be perfectly honest, that might need to be taken care of because it is a safety concern, it would be a good idea to take care of those. Another item might be a roof that is leaking. If you have a roof leak, no matter how minor, you need to take care of it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you automatically have to replace it. It might make sense to replace it, but maybe it just can be solved by a patch. If a good roofer can do a roof patch to take care of it, again, depending on the severity of the leak, but regardless, I recommend taking care of it, addressing those items that are, active, any active roof leaks, any active safety concerns. Another thing that you can do that is not super expensive is paint. Paint is like the secret weapon, I think, from all homeowners. Make sure you pick the right colors. I've done a couple videos on this as well. You want to make sure that you are picking colors that appeal to the widest audience. The one thing that I'm going to stress is please do not paint. And I've had some interior designers leave some comments that they strongly disagree. That's fine. You can disagree all you want. But from an overall viewpoint, in terms of what buyers typically are looking for, having the walls the same colors as ceiling is not attractive. It's very stale. When there's no definitive color difference between the walls and the ceiling, it doesn't feel warm and inviting. You want stark white on the ceiling, ceiling white is what they call it, and some sort of neutral color. Warm white, to be honest, that's what I have a lot in my house. A regular warm white or a linen white. Or you can do a color, just make sure it's muted. Make sure it kind of goes with everything. Now, if you have wallpaper, please, please, I'm going to beg you, do not paint over wallpaper. Please don't do it. Don't do it. The reason being, number one, buyers will know. It's hard to disguise that. Number two, it can start to peel if it doesn't adhere to the wallpaper. Now you've got a major problem and a major mess. And it doesn't add to your situation. It doesn't help. It might detract because the buyers now see that and say, oh gosh, we got to take that wallpaper down, but now we've got to dig through a layer of paint. Don't do it. Wash the walls, clean that wallpaper. Magic eraser is your friend. Anything that's a degreaser to get all the fingerprints off and all the things. But painting to give the room a facelift, especially if you have peeling paint. Sometimes, and I've seen this a lot with older homes, if the ceiling was not properly prepared, you might actually have ceiling paint that is peeling off the ceiling because it doesn't adhere to the drywall properly. You want to either do it or have someone else do it for you. Scrape that off and give it a nice fresh coat of paint. That will carry you miles. That is a good investment. It's worthwhile doing. Now, the next category is going to be electrical. Now, this is probably going to be the most expensive out of all of the updates, but could be the one that is most advantageous. The first thing that I would look at in electrical is the circuit panel, the circuit breaker panel. If you have a home that is built before the 60s and it has glass fuses, I strongly recommend you get it priced out on a new electrical panel. Why? Because it is a major safety hazard. The circuit breaker panel can handle the load of today's demands. Air conditioners, refrigerators, compressors, all the things that people normally expect, they want to be able to use. If you have a home that maybe you don't have AC, you're fine without it. And maybe you got a very, very small refrigerator and that's fine for you. My suggestion is have it priced out. At least have it priced out. The other thing that you want to look at is look at your panel, see if it's on a national recall list. There are panels that are fire hazards. And if you have a home inspector come into your home and tell the buyers that that panel is on the fire hazard list, it's on the recall list, you're going to end up compensating the buyers anyways because they're going to insist on it. So check to see if that needs to be updated. The other thing that you want to do is it may be worthwhile to have an electrician come in and pull the front of your panel off. The reason being, and I am speaking from experience, when I had my AC installed, I have mini splits in my house, and when they were connecting that system to my panel, they took off the front of the panel, and the words the electrician said when I came downstairs and said, "How's everything going?" He says, "Yeah, we got to talk." Not what I wanted to hear. Well, unbeknownst to me, and I am type A, I'm pretty proactive with all the stuff and updates and maintenance of my house. But I don't take the cover off on my panel. And unbeknownst to me, over the years, water had been slowly dripping down the main and into my panel. And those breakers were fused into the panel. It was a fire waiting to happen. Of course, I said, yes, please get it out of here as quickly as possible. I ended up spending money I wasn't prepared to spend, but I'm glad that my house didn't burn down. But I didn't know until the front of the cover came off. And that's something that a home inspector will do. I don't recommend, if you're not an electrician, I don't recommend that you do that. But it may be worthwhile to have an electrician come in and just proactively take a look to see. And if it's fine, great. But if it's not, you're going to end up being glad that number one, keep yourself safe, but number two, keep your buyers safe and avoid a home inspection issue. Now, other items that you can look for that are worth paying attention to under electrical is if you have any broken thermostats, and especially if you have the old Honeywell style Mercury dial type thermostat, you can replace those with a programmable thermostat that is not, it's not super expensive, and it will update the house, add some energy efficiency while you're at it. But walk around your house. I mentioned earlier in the video, if you have open junction boxes, if you have loose outlets where the outlets are actually coming out or the outlet itself is broken, that's a safety hazard. You want to address it. If you're having an electrician come in to take care of all these things, and again, I stress, if you are not comfortable, if you've never done this before, you don't touch electrical, have an electrician come in. It'll be worth the investment to keep yourself from getting hurt. But while the electrician is there, if you have a home that now gets into maybe it's 1920s, 1910s, or earlier, you want to check for knob and tube wiring. Knob and tube wiring was primarily used between the 1880s and 1940s, and it is a wiring that it's actually very dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. Now, most knob and tube wiring is dormant at this point. It got bypassed when the house was updated with a regular circuit breaker panel. But you can see it a mile away. Big ceramic knobs, cylinders. It's usually hanging from the ceiling in the basement. And over the years, they're disappearing. If you live in an older home that has that, highly, highly, highly recommend, because their home inspector is going to tell the buyers, you got to move this immediately. And it sounds scarier than it is. You disconnect it, you rip it all down, done. But doing that proactively, highly recommend going through that exercise. Next on the list falls under maintenance, plumbing. Plumbing, if you have any leaky faucets, any toilets that just run for days, you have an outside spigot that doesn't want to shut off, if you've got any of those issues, I recommend having them addressed. I do. I recommend having that stuff fixed. It's, again, not going to break the bank, expensive. A lot of these things, to be honest, I fix everything that I just named. I fix myself, comfortable in doing so because they're minor repairs. And something like that, if you're not going to take care of it yourself, having a plumber come in to take care of those items while they're there, they're going to be looking for corroded pipes. You may have a leak that's about to happen, but hasn't happened, and you can tell by looking at the corrosion. If you walk into your basement or wherever your heating system is, your AC system is, and you're under your kitchen sink, under the bathroom sink. Anytime you see any white efflorescence or green powder, that is a sign that there is a current leak. And it may not be dripping, but it's on the verge. And that means that there is going to be a leak that you may have to contend with anyways, and that you may not even know. And sometimes things will leak and leak and leak for a long time before you realize it, depending on where it is. So proactively going through your house and just taking a quick visual check of all your plumbing to make sure that everything's up to snuff, I think is a good way to go. And then the last item on the list is something that I talk about nonstop, and that's decluttering and cleaning. Yes, decluttering and deep cleaning will carry you miles. And it sounds simple, but if you have a dated home and you've been in this house for a very long period of time, you've collected a lot of stuff. Getting that stuff packed, I met with a homeowner earlier today and had this exact conversation. And I said, you know what? There's not money in updating, and nor did I recommend it for his particular house. I said, here's what I want you to focus on. You got to pack. You got to get rid of stuff. You got to do keep what's going to stay. What am I going to keep? What am I going to take with me to the next house? What am I trashing? Get a dumpster, get it out of there. What am I going to donate? And going through that process before the house goes on the market allows you to make the house, it makes the house look bigger, makes it feel more airy because you're removing all that stuff, and it'll allow you to clean it. It'll allow you to deep clean, get all the spider webs, actually be able to clean the walls if you need to clean them, clean the floors thoroughly, get all the appliances, all the stuff. Cleaning and declutter. Yes, it's not the most fun thing, but it will carry you miles. Now, as you're going through these checklists, the one thing that I want you to look at, the one thing I want you to take a step back at and look at your home as a whole. You want to look at the sum of the parts. You want to look at everything that should be done, needs to be done, things that you want to do to the house. And I want you to look at that. And then as you're going through each repair, update, upgrade, I want to ask yourself, will it make a difference? I met with a client last week and we started walking through the house, and I could tell that the house was in need of repair, in need of up. It was tired. It was very tired. He was overwhelmed, and his wife had passed away last year. Hadn't been able to keep up with the house. And as we went upstairs to the bathroom, he said, "Well, I'm gonna replace the bathroom floor." And as I looked around, the trim was missing around the doors. We had a wall that looked like a repair, needed to be sanded. The ceiling needed to be redone. The cabinet in the bathroom, the doors were crooked. It was in rough shape. I said, don't do it. Don't do the bathroom floor. It's a waste of money. Why? Because of the sum of the parts. It is going to stick out like a sore thumb to do one thing. If you're going to remodel, if you're going to do the bathroom floor, don't do it unless you're doing the entire bathroom. If you're going to remodel one bathroom, don't do it unless you're going to remodel all the bathrooms. Why? Because it sticks out like a sore thumb. It actually will hurt you more than help you, because that one thing is only one thing. Now, if your house has been totally remodeled and it is an older home, and there's only one or two things that need to be, updated, and then as a whole the house will be updated, then yes. But if it hasn't, if you're not in that category, you're not in that situation, no. Look at the sum of the parts. Focus on safety items. Focus on immediate, necessary repairs, leaks, things that are of safety, things that could be dangerous, that could come up in a home inspection. You want to focus on the house as it sits, and then the next step is to price it appropriately. I would rather minimal repairs, have some maintenance done, and then price it to reflect the current condition than have you spend a bunch of money on repairs that you'll never get back. Pricing is going to be critical. Pricing in the condition that it is now is critical. Now, another option that you may want to consider is selling it as is. That is certainly an option where you do nothing. It's leaking, the roof is leaking, nothing. And I've had that situation. I had that a couple of years ago where the seller was just, they were cash strapped. They couldn't do anything. So what do? We priced it appropriately. You've got to be able to price it based on what a buyer is willing to pay. But keep in mind, when you do that, when a house is in that type of disrepair, you just have to be aware of who's going to buy it, who your audience is, who the buyers are. It might limit the number of buyers. It may take a little longer, but every house is saleable. I often say, I say something my grandmother used to say. There's a butt for every seat. Every home is saleable. It doesn't matter how outdated, how many repairs need to be done. It doesn't matter. Every house is saleable if you price it right, and that is the key. Now, if you want more content, you want to learn more about preparing to sell your home without spending a ton of money, you want to check out these videos. I'm Jen Sylvester. I'm here to help you be a savvy home seller.